Namaskar, and a very good afternoon to all of you. Man, I'm not used to this speech. Looks like I'm a pop singer or something like that. So, thank you, Rupali, for inviting me once again to this beautiful platform. Uh, Today's day takes me to exactly 1 year back when I first came here. And so that was only 10 days after I had arrived. And uh, so my arrival was very momentous, not in the sense of my arrival, but I came and I was completely hit by visit by Commerce and Industries Minister 3 days later. And after the Commerce and Industry Minister left, then I came to know that there is something called the Almadal Festival and I have to be there. And so I'll just be honest, and I'll tell you that I've never dealt Sweden in my life, entire life. My bread and butter job had been migration, mobility, and so on and so forth. So I don't know, somebody in great wisdom thought that Sweden is the place for me to go. And when I landed here, and then I started preparing for this Commerce and Industry Minister visit and Almadalen, and then I realized, yeah, how can so much things be happening with a country with only 10 million population? you know. And then, of course, it was a very daunting experience in Albert Darling speaking and at the same time pretending that I know the stuff. Well, thankfully, I know a little more this year than I did. But thanks to the crash courses I did, it held me in good stead because then just out of the blue, our Prime Minister came. And it was a very short, unscheduled visit, but a very momentous one. But I'll come to that. But all of this 1 year that has happened has, of course, crystallized in that visit. But first of all, I'd like to thank Rupali Swami and the team for continuous engagement and success. It's such a wonderful forum, and it has developed as a very important platform for a larger India-Sweden dialogue. And I think it does a fabulous job in bringing government, academia, diplomats, innovators, civil society, academicians together to discuss important issues of our relationship, but of course, very topical issues that are of importance not just for our relationship, but also for global dialogue. And today's dialogue, I think, AI, you and I, man. First, when Robali told me that I had to speak on AI, what is the topic? AI, you and I said, oh man, this is going to be so difficult. But thankfully, the topic for me is not such a difficult one. It is the topic is engaging India, right? So I think that's good. I stick to India, and that's my bread and butter. But I want to tell you that my first realization over the last 1 year is that India and Sweden, if there are any natural partners in today's world, it's India and Sweden. I think over the last, this relationship is founded not just on few years or few decades, but over a century, I think. And when I came here, then I realized that there is actually a statue of Buddha, which was discovered in Sweden in 1950s that traces back itself to 4th century or 5th century AD. And it was brought to Sweden by Viking traders. So I knew that there is a Viking connection somehow between India and Sweden. But of course, coming to more recent times, I think we have some of the companies, Alpha Laval and so on, SKF and so on, which have been in India for 100 years. So, so when I came here in last 1 year, if I meet with people in various companies, it's not very unknown for me to meet Swedish people who have worked in India for 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, and know India better than I do, and that's a fact. So, so it's a relationship that is based on great deal of trust, understanding, shared democratic values, of course, and over these past years, a very strong emerging economic complementarities. There is also, increasingly so, Sweden is the innovation capital of the world, and certainly over the years it has been 1, 2, or 3. And in India also, in the last 10 years, we have been putting so much of focus on innovation, transformative technologies, and so on. And so these kind of complementarities are enhancing even more. But all of this came together during our Prime Minister's visit to Sweden, when we really put our relationship together and decided that we have done enough over the last 7 years since Prime Minister last came here in 2018, that we need to enhance our partnership, make it more multifold, make it more comprehensive, and indeed strategic. So the name of the partnership is now Strategic Partnership. And this partnership is not coming out of vacuum. It comes out of the tremendous opportunities that have arisen because of the progress and economic development that has happened in India. We are now 4 trillion economy. We have 1.5 billion market. It's a country where you can find both the scale, speed, and talent and skills. Uh, Immense amount of infrastructure development has been taking place in India. Just to give you an example, in next 5 years, by 2030, India is going to make a capital investments of about $1 trillion, $1.5 trillion. Out of this $1.5 trillion, almost $800 billion will come out of private industry, and the rest from the government. And if you keep on going to India back and forth, as some of my friends do, you will see gradually, as every year there are significant changes that are taking place in India. Of course, there's a much road to go, much distance to traverse. But overall, what this development has meant is that there are far more opportunities for growth between India and Sweden. So just the first pillar is the strategic dialogue, enhanced strategic dialogue, greater dialogue between the leadership in defense, politics, national security, and so on. The second pillar is next generation economic partnership. The third one is emerging technologies and trusted connectivity. And the fourth one is shaping tomorrow together, people, planet, and resilience. And during the visit, I remember the words of Prime Minister Wolf when he said that India-Sweden partnership is one shaped by more than a century of cooperation, trust, and entrepreneurship. And that was the first thought that came to my mind when I came here and I started going through all that has happened in our relationship. And so these are some of the thoughts that I had on India-Sweden partnership. Of course, on the issue of AI, you and I really have no idea about much of AI, but I trust on somebody who told me when I became ambassador that ambassadorship is only 80% of you being there. You know, rest of it is 20%, so you can say whatever you like. But I truly feel that even though I may not be a great expert on how AI relates to you and I, but I truly feel as an engineer, I'm a chemical engineer myself, and I'm also a management graduate, and of course I have long years of work as diplomats, I think. AI has been a very transformative technology. It's one of those fundamental technologies that affect you in multiple ways. You know, and I think one of the first impact of technology that I had in my life was early on in my career, in 1990s when I joined service. And I think for many of you young people, I think it would be very illustrative of how transformative technologies can be. So in 1990s when I joined service, you know, we had no phones. Obviously, there were no mobile phones in India, and everything was done through fax. And obviously, it's unbelievable as it sounds to the young people, there was no way of communicating once you are out of the house and out of the office. So life was very good, very peaceful, nobody could bother you. No emergencies existed, and certainly we had no idea about how to troll each other. So that was life then, and then completely changed when internet came, and we had the first internet computer at my house and office, and then life was never the same. It became 24/7, right? Anybody can access you with email, So now I think our lives are completely ruined, right? But on the other hand, it has also improved my efficiency and productivity drastically. What took me hours and hours, I could obtain from expert by email or later on sift through internet. And then later on, mobile also came and so on and so forth. So I think life has become much better. AI is going to be even more transformative. And I can see it in my own personal life and in my professional life. But of course, it is also it's also creating a, very ironically, it is making us more capable, more intelligent, but at the same time more idiotic as well. In the sense that I really find that all the internet has done is to somehow, diminish our capability to fundamental thinking, to more deeper, more profound thinking, and I think with AI, and I see with myself also, I'm gradually, I think, not by age, but certainly by intellectual capabilities, there's much less concentration, much less capacity to engage. I think that is as far as I am concerned. But I'm very happy in other ways. AI has made my job at multiple level easier, Preparing a report, insights, etc. is much easier. It has also created a deluge of information. But I think where AI has really mattered the most is in terms of industry and in terms of impact in our relationship. If you really see, 5 years before, I had no idea the AI would be so important geopolitically. But if you saw in G7 last week, you would find that the major G7 leaders were sitting together with the major AI leaders of the world, and almost at an equal footing, if you really see. So the geopolitics is no longer about nations setting up policies which industries follow. The industries are now the co-creators of those international policy framework which nations along with these industry leaders are going to set. And so I think it is going to be a very profound change in terms of how diplomacy will work in a post-AI environment. Obviously, it is very difficult for us to see in which direction AI will evolve in terms of regulation, for example, whether AI will be a very limiting technology, which will be limited to a few nations, which will have national sovereignty implications. So we saw how some models were prevented from being leaked out of the country national border. There's also the other one is how do we ensure equitability and access and the issue of safety. And then, of course, the third is where does it leave to other countries and especially Global South. And if you would recall, we had an AI summit also in Delhi. This was the first AI summit that was organized in Global South, primarily to bring Global South into dialogue, where almost 65%, two-thirds of world's population live. And so I think Global South also needs to have a more and more important voice into how these technologies are evolving. So there are two models in which I think we can look at it. One is the nuclear technology model. In 1940s, when nuclear technology came and test Manhattan project happened, and we thought that this was a very fundamental technology. It was dangerous, but it was useful. So it was limited to few nations, and the other nations then took as and when the technology as was needed. It continues to remain highly restricted with a very tight global regime. On the other hand, we have also internet, which could have been considered very dangerous or something, and which came out of private enterprises. But gradually, it became very widespread thanks to uniformity of protocols and regulations that has happened. And so internet has been a very widespread technology. In India, we believe that technology has to be accessible, it has to be safe, and it has to be regulated, of course. But it has to be it has to serve public good. And we have an example for that. If you remember our digital financial infrastructure, which we set up, is a public good. It's directed toward public good. It has delivered financial inclusion to nearly 1.5 billion Indians. So before the DFI was set up, DFI as we call it, and Aadhaar as we call it in Hindi, before it was set up, it was very difficult to set up your financial identity. If you don't have money, if you don't have access to bank, if you can't open an account, there was no way. You didn't exist, basically, financially speaking. But what DFI did was to bring the financial inclusion to the last person on the planet. So almost 800 million people now have, nearly all people have an Aadhaar card. Nearly 500 million people were issued health card last year and brought into health insurance. During the G7, President Macron was speaking about his experience in India. And he said that when he started going to India, it was a very different India. Now, if you want to send even a cent, 25 cent to one person to another, you can send free of cost. Not good for not good for Mastercard and Visa card, but good for all the Indians, you know. And recently, my son, he went to India from US. So obviously, he didn't have any rupees. So I gave him some rupees cash, because if you're not in India, then it's very difficult to have Aadhaar and all that. So he didn't have any such. So he went to India with all the bundles of cash, and he came back and he said that I couldn't spend a single rupee from my whole cash because everything was cashless. In Bangalore, in Delhi, even in small places, you know, people now do not, even handle cash anymore, you know. So this is how the world has transformed itself. And I think AI would be in our, if we were to have our war, this is how we feel the AI would be. AI would be a very important, very deeply transformative technology, as I said. And it will have a very deep impact in terms of our evolution, in terms of our developmental process. It will certainly accelerate our development in certain areas where AI can be easily applied to. Agriculture, for example, health is another one. It will reduce cost and it will provide easy access and more accelerated access. So I think this is how I will see AI. And I think in some AI preparedness, of course, is one thing that we have been very careful in evaluating ourselves. In some cases, we are quite prepared. We have quite the positive side on our ledger. You know, we have a skill, we have talents, we have a IT service industry, which is now 200 billion annual turnover. We also have excellent academic institutions, IITs, IIMs, Center of Excellence. But then, of course, this AI needs a completely different dimension of capabilities. You need computes, you need semicon industry, you need a very cutting edge labs where you can have a foundational models. You need access to large language models. And I think these are some of the things that we are engaging with. I hope in due course we will have more opportunity to engage on these questions. And I'll be very happy to explain many of these concepts with all of you. Thank you very much.